David, he's a mighty warrior. He's the anointed king, right? He's a strategist. He is a worship leader. But David, he fell into sin. Not long after that, his kids followed suit and was a mirror image of what their dad had done, right? Amnon raped his sister. Then Absolom killed his brother. Tamar is in really bad shape now in the culture and in who she is. Tamar goes to live with Absolom. Both of them are kind of rejected. They're exiled really out. It's horrible. That's how we left last week. Absalom, he's longing to see his father. We saw him reach for him in different ways, destructive ways, asking for him, all kinds of ways, right? But David kept Absalom at a distance, took him out of fellowship, and withheld him to come near. And that was horrible. It really is. He really withheld, in a weird way, forgiveness and grace and restoration from his son. Tonight, on our pages, that's going to be an issue, to say the least. We find that the bitterness within Absolom has taken full root now and found fertile soil in his heart. It is in there and it is planted. Now he is resolute and he is really a mighty oak of contention on this path of destruction that will not be thwarted. And that is really bad, you guys. So we're going to start in 2 Samuel chapter 15. Let's read the first verses. So after all this, Absalom got himself a chariot and horses and 50 men to run before him. And Absalom used to rise early and stand beside the way of the gate. And when any man had a dispute to come before the king for judgment, Absalom would call to him and say, "From what city are you?" And when he said, "Your servant is of such and such a tribe in Israel," Absalom would say to him, "See, your claims are good and your claims are right, but there is no man designated by the king to hear you." Then Absalom would say, "Oh, that I were judge in the land. Then every man with a dispute or cause might come to me, and I would give him justice." And whenever a man came near to pay homage to him, gross, he would put out his hand and take hold of him and kiss him. Thus Absalom did to all of Israel who came to the king for judgment. So Absalom stole the hearts of the men of Israel. Dun, dun, dun. This would be a great movie. Question: what is the significance of the city gate? So city gates were really important. It was essentially the courthouse or the town hall of the city. You would bring your case to court. There would be elders there, there would be judges there, there would be people there assigned, and if they couldn't vet it out against the law, they would pull up Leviticus, they would pull up the law, and you would have these basically scribes that would be able to adjudicate the law, and you'd bring your case, and they would vet it out. If they couldn't, it would escalate up to the next level, and then the next level, and it could be that your case goes all the way to the king. Remember a famous or maybe infamous case that Solomon ruled over with 2 mothers? Remember that? Yeah, that dispute, the elders are like, "I'm out," all the way to the king. In Jeremiah and Isaiah and these places, you would see that the prophets would herald the news of the Lord at the gate. Jeremiah got in big trouble at town halls. He literally got thrown in prison every time. But that's where he would herald the news at the town hall. So, question, what is Absolom doing here in our text?
Garnering favor.
Yes. Garnering favor, that's right. So, totally. Yes, all those things. So, motivated by this bitter root that's growing up within him, he positioned himself in the place of high authority, adjudicating the law over Israel. You're talking about 12 tribes, all of them. They came from Dan to Beersheba, which is the Bible way of saying from the top to the bottom. Because this is the capital, this is Jerusalem, this is where they would bring their big stuff in, and Absalom was there. Question, what did Absalom promise the people in verse 4? Justice. Justice, right? It looks like this. So this is a city gate. This is actually the Damascus gate. One of the gates. Have you guys been on the gate tours with me? That's a fabulous, fun tour. This is one. So they would sit right here in this gate. This isn't the main gate, but this is the Lion's Gate right here. So they would just sit there and everybody would bring their stuff into the gate. So it says, oh, that I were, look at these highlighted, or on our slide, it doesn't look very pretty. It's actually like this really pretty pink normally, but not right now. Oh, that I were judge in the land, that every man with a dispute or cause might come to me, and I would give him justice. Notice the key words. Judge, dispute, come to me. I would give them justice. Here's the thing. Remember, we're standing in Absalom's shoes for a minute. His dad executed no justice for his sister. Right? None. He extended no heart of reconciliation to his son. And at the determination of Joab, whose field was just lit up and now is a crispy nothing, right? Almost begrudgingly, David invites Absalom to the castle, the palace, and kisses his hand. There's no exchange of words. There's no bear hugs. There's nothing, right? It's fodder for a flame that's raging hot in Absolom right now. It's an uprising revolt. A quiet one, but it is. I would give him justice. Do you hear the silent stab in it? Do you hear the jab in it? I would be just as my father is not. It's a blow. It's a hit. It's a direct attack. Quietly, it's wrapped up kind of nice. It's not nice. It's a direct jab against the dad. It does make you wonder, though, like Sunny brought up, anyone seen David around lately? He's not at the gate, which at this point he would be, because he should be defending his ground against his son who's taking his place. He should be there. He should be there at least to deflect what Absalom is doing. In fact, David wasn't around much the last chapter or the last chapter. It makes you wonder, actually, if he's been cowering in the palace since Bathsheba. Where is the king? It's a valid question. Is he hiding from his mighty men, from Bathsheba's dad and grandfather specifically? At best, David is passive, and passive is kind. It's been years on the pages of our Bible since David has done anything himself in our text. Not really since Mephibosheth in chapter 9. It's been a long time. Decades, almost. We're pushing 20 years now, you see. So what happens? Well, people are fickle. We know that. It's the same. It's been the same since the garden. It'll be the same forever. People are fickle. Israel is naturally now gravitating toward the one who is around. The guy who is taking an interest in their great concerns. These concerns are their entire weight of trouble on their family, on their businesses, on their kids, and somebody cares. It doesn't take much to turn the heart of somebody, right? Absalom is a politician, and he's very crafty. He sees a hole, and he's filling it. It's a vacuum of good leadership, something that Israel had with David, and he has been absent, and they want a leader. It doesn't really care. It doesn't really matter who it is. Absalom's not a great choice, okay? But he's there. You see, he's handsome, he's royal, he has fabulous hair. He's vocal, he's impressive, he's present. He's there on behalf of the people, you see. I don't know. Here's the thing. Like, if you're an Israelite, it's like, hey, this guy isn't half bad. This Fabio politician guy, right? I mean, Fabio, remember? I can't believe it's not butter. That is Absolom. It's true. You know, if the king's too busy to hear my case, I can always take my case to Absolom, the prince. I mean, he's the next best thing, right? David who? We're in trouble, right? As far as we know, Absolom has been campaigning just like this for years without discipline, without any word from David, right? Parades. He's got chariots. He's got men. He's a man of the people. And justice for all. Who doesn't like that? This is mutiny robed in a cloak of civil justice for the people. It's mutiny. And he's left uncontended and undisciplined without a word from David for years. Okay, look at verse 7. And at the end of 4 years, Absalom said to the king, "Please let me go and pay my vow, which I have vowed to the Lord in Hebron. For your servant vowed a vow while I lived at Geshur in Aram, saying, if the Lord will indeed bring me back to Jerusalem, then I will offer worship to the Lord." The king said to him, "Go in peace." This is the first spoken words between Absalom and David since the barbecue invite. And it is the last words David speaks to his son. This is it. Go in peace. So he arose and he went to Hebron. But Absalom sent secret messengers throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, as soon as you hear the sound of the trumpet, then say, Absalom is king at Hebron. With Absalom went 200 men from Jerusalem who were invited guests, and they went in their innocence and knew nothing. Basically, he hired people that wouldn't think for themselves. That's what the text means. just tag-alongs, followers. Here's the thing. Question. Think about this. First one to answer gets a prize. I don't know what it is, but what is the significance of Hebron? You guys, this is actually huge. It's monumental. What did Absolom do? First of all, he makes up this stupid lie. While I was at the Philistine country with my granddad, hiding from you, the Lord said, it's nothing. It's stupid. But David says, go. Where does Absolom want to go? Hebron. Remember, David became king in 2 stages. He was the king of Judah for 7 years before Israel adopted him as king, and he moved headquarters to Jerusalem. Hebron is the capital, it was, of Judah. Absalom goes and says, listen, we're going to go there, we're going to blow a trumpet and declare where it all began, I am king. It's another slap in the face, to say it mildly. Hebron, it's bold. It is. The campaign was successful that Absalom was wielding here. This campaign at the gate, these chariots, these parades, the winning the hearts of Israel, it was successful. The people have essentially dethroned David for Absalom. Some for real, some in their heart. And his support is spreading throughout all the tribes, from Dan to Beersheba. It's a big deal. Look at verse 12. While Absalom was offering the sacrifices, he sent for Ahithophel, the Gilonite, David's counselor, from his city Gilo. And the conspiracy grew strong. And the people with Absalom kept increasing. Uh-oh. Dun, dun, dun. Question. Who is Ahithophel? David's chief counselor and Bathsheba's grandfather. Remember, I told you it's going to come back into play. This betrayal of David with Bathsheba goes so much deeper and so much worse than what you think. Ahithophel is back in action, and he is not happy. He has switched teams, and it's bad news. Hold on to that for a minute, because we actually aren't going to see all of it tonight. But remember that the scriptures are throwing it in there as a teaser for what's coming up, and it's not good. Look at verse 13. And a messenger came to David saying, the hearts of the men of Israel have gone after Absalom. Then David said to all his servants who were with him at Jerusalem, arise, let us flee, or else there will be no escape for us from Absalom. Go quickly, lest he overtake us quickly and bring down ruin on us and strike the city with the edge of the sword. And the king's servant said to the king, behold, your servants are ready to do whatever the Lord, the king, decides. So the king went out, and all the household after him, and the king left 10 concubines to keep the house. And the king went out, and all the people after him, and they halted at the last house. So David is read in on Absalom's full campaign. He hears about Hebron, that they have essentially crowned him king at home base, and he knows Absalom has a lot of people behind him, and those lot of people are coming his way. You see, they're headed towards Jerusalem, this entourage that Absalom has built up for himself. And immediately David calls for an evacuation, an emergency evacuation. So, question, why would this skilled, well-seasoned battle strategist who has literally had no really defeats to his name when he was on the battlefield, why would he flee the city and leave Jerusalem? There's a couple ideas. It seems that this news is urgent enough that he's caught by surprise. He doesn't have time to shut the city down to be able to withhold a siege. Remember, when a city is under siege, the army would surround them 360, essentially cutting off their water supply and their food supply for however long. And they can hold out because they can run to 7-Eleven and come back. And that's how it happens. Usually they'll siege for a year or 2 years or 3 years, and they will wait it out till they have essentially all died or are too weak to do anything. And it's a pansy way to do it, but that's what they did. So that is one theory, is that they just weren't set up. Historians, though, say that David was set up for that. So I don't know. But it does say that he doesn't want bloodshed in Jerusalem, the edge of the sword, right? He doesn't want that happening. And it's his son, who he has yet to contend with face to face at all. So he leaves, right? So here's what it looks like. David heads out the east gate, okay? And we're going to show you this in a minute. David heads out the east gate. Absalom's coming in the south side. It says that in our text. Okay, so the text, when you pull the text and throw it on a map, this is what it looks like. So David is leaving out the side. Is essentially Absalom's in, David's out. And there's 12 gates around the city. So there was lots of exit options. David chose the east gate and he heads out. So David exits the city through the east gate. There it is. The east gate, y'all. Jesus is coming back. Just thought I'd throw that. Pause for a commercial break. The King of Kings is coming back through that gate. Unpause. Commercial over. Back to our regularly scheduled program. This is what the East Gate looks like today. The Ottoman Turks thought they were getting really, really savvy with this second coming thing, knowing that Jews can't walk through graveyards. It's in the Levitical law. So they put a bunch of graves in front of the East Gate, like that would work. And so this is the Kidron Valley. So when you go out the East Gate, you go through the Kidron Valley, and then, okay, there, see, in case you weren't following me. Look at how nice I am. Then this is looking from the East Gate back up the Mount of Olives, which is where David's going. So if you're standing at the East Gate, this now is the Kidron. I bet you I put it. Yeah, this is the Mount of Olives now. This is the Kidron Valley, and you would go right up, and the Garden of Gethsemane is over there to the left on the Mount of Olives. Jesus made this trek every single day, sometimes twice a day. So it says that he met with the Father early morning and he debriefed with the Father every night on the Mount of Olives. He would make this trek through the East Gate, down the Kidron Valley, up to the Mount of Olives, and back in all the time. Isn't that cool? So this is where David went. He went through the East Gate, into the Kidron Valley, up to the Mount of Olives. This is a shot of Gethsemane looking back. You can see the Temple Mount there, the East Gate there. And so it's if you're standing at the garden, it's kind of on the right side of the mountain, and you kind of like do this, and you're back at the East Gate. Question. We might end a little early tonight. I do have a worship song for the end, though. Where is the Lord? That is our challenge. It should be. I hope if I had like what do they call it, a memoir or something of being a Bible teacher, if everybody would annoyingly say she always wanted us to look for Jesus, that would be so happy for me. That would be a great thing. Did you guys see him? He's on every page, remember? In every verse, in every chapter, even this one, there are quiet glimpses of the Lord in this chapter. And I want to show you some. Where is the Lord? David's in a weird place. He belongs to the Lord. He's in a weird place. We get in weird places. Has anyone been in a weird place in your life with the Lord? Anybody been like, I think I am miles off track. I don't know what I'm doing. And you have like a 2x4 hit you in the head, and you're like, yeah, I'm way off. David's about to get a 2x4 in his head, okay? But he's off. He's off track. He's in a funky place. We haven't heard him speak of the Lord, talk about the Lord. He's not doing anything with the Lord. He's doing everything without the Lord or beside the Lord. It's weird. He's in a funky place. We do that. And sometimes we get dug so far down in the hole that we don't even realize we're in a hole. That happens. I think David's not quite realizing how bad it is. But he does realize by the end of our chapter. Question: has the Lord left David's side? No. That should be a confident no, because we know that David belongs to the Lord, right? Has he left David to fend for himself? No. No. Right? Is he fed up with David? Like, that's it. The Lord's here, and he's here on our pages in these few quiet hints. You guys ready to take some notes? Okay, number 1, the Lord is a friend. The Lord is a friend. Check out our text. David flees Jerusalem. He stops at the last house, or really he's at the border, or like the outside of Jerusalem, right? He stops. He's about to cross into the Kidron Valley, into the Mount of Olives, and really he's kind of like on the trajectory to just keep going and run into the Dead Sea. Okay, he's just going out there. But this guy shows up. Nope, before that. Yes, all those things. Itahiya. That's his name. I bet. He shows up. He's a friend. He's a friend, right, to David. Did you guys read it? Proverbs 18:24 says that one who has unreliable friends soon comes to ruin. Does David have a lot of unreliable friends right now? Almost everybody is in line, standing in line, raising their hand to betray David. But there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother. David had many betray him, even his own blood, even his own mighty men, even his own son. But the Lord sticks close, closer than blood, closer than mighty men, closer to the ones around you. And he is true, and he is unchanging. He doesn't bend with the wind of what you're doing. He's faithful. You see, he's a friend. Turn to John 15. Listen to what the Lord said. By the way, since we're in John 15, that exact walk through the east gate into the Kidron Valley and up the Mount of Olives is exactly what Jesus is doing right here with his guys on his way to the garden. He's making that exact walk. And he says this in verse 12 through 15. He says, This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. You are my friends. You guys, who is saying that? Jesus. Who is Jesus? Savior, Lord, Creator, omniscient God says, you are my friends. That's huge. If you do what I command you, no longer do I call you servants, for the servant does not know what his master is doing, but I have called you friends. For all that I have heard from my Father, I have made known to you. You are friends. David needed a friend, and the Lord sent one, a friend. Now, what's really cool about this guy is the next point. Point number 2. The Lord is with you. The Lord is with you. His name means with me. Ittai, this guy, his name means with me. David had a friend with me. The Lord is always with us, always. And he promised to be, even when he wasn't physically with us, by the gift of what? The Holy Spirit. Yeah, anybody still in John? Me neither. But on the same walk, just a couple paragraphs before, he said something else. In John 14, verse 15 through 19, listen to this. If you love me, you will keep my commandments. I will ask the Father, and he will give you another helper to be with you forever. Even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it neither sees him nor knows him. You know him, for he dwells with you and will be in you. The Lord is a friend. He's also with us every day, every minute. He's with us, you see. Isaiah 41:10 says this, fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Fear not, David. I'm with you. He's quiet. Nobody's saying his name. You see hints of him everywhere. This Ittai guy was a friend named with me. How cool is that? Right? With me. Okay, number 3, ready? The Lord is merciful, you guys. He is merciful. Zadok the priest huffs it behind David. He's like, wait! What has he got? The ark! You guys. He's like, wait! Remember, it has to be on the poles or he's going to die. Remember, that was a rule. So he huffs it, but whatever it is. I have no error. I would do this so much better. Wait! He's got the ark. David did not call for the ark. The ark is so out of his mind right now. The Lord is nowhere on this guy's radar. But Zadok brings the ark. He brings the ark out. So, question. This is kind of a big, kind of general question, but what did the ark represent? It represented several things, but throw some stuff out. The presence of the Lord, right? The Shekinah glory, the Hebrew says, would fall on the ark, right? It would just be a kind of tangible, something that they could see, that the Lord was there. He's always there. There was nothing magical about this ark. He just chose to do it. I don't know why. He can do what he wants to, okay? That's what he wanted to do. I don't know. But that's what he did. So the presence of the Lord was ever present. Look, David, you might not be aware of the presence of the Lord, but the Lord is ever present and accessible and approachable. The ark followed David out. How is that possible that the Lord is ever present and accessible and approachable? Remember the lid on the ark? What is it called? The mercy seat. Atonement. When the ark came, there was a reminder of mercy, the place of atonement where blood was shed for the remission of sins. It's mercy, it's atonement, it's forgiveness, it's the blood. Okay, turn to Romans chapter 3. Check this out. Romans chapter 3, verse 23. We know this verse. For all have, how many? What do we do? That's right. And fall short of the glory of God. And are, what does that mean? Yes, justified by the grace as a gift through the redemption that is in Christ Jesus, whom God put forward as a propitiation by his blood. What does that mean? We did all these. This is the exact text that we did our doctrinal definitions, remember? What's propitiation mean? Yes, it is the appeasement and substitution. Remember how Jesus stepped in and he was both the appeasement of God's wrath and the substitution for us on the cross, right? The propitiation by the blood to be received by faith. This was to show God's righteousness because in his divine forbearance he has passed over former sins, nodding back to the Passover lamb, right? It was to show his righteousness at the present time so that he might be just and justifier. Remember, this is like a key verse for us. That he might be just and justifier. What David needs more than anything at this moment, right now, is for the Passover lamb to pass over his sins. He needs the mercy seat. He needs atonement. He needs a reminder who he belongs to and what the Lord has done for him, you see. The atoning blood needs to be pled over his family, over his kids, over himself. That family needs the mercy seat. All of them. They are a mess. David forgot all about the mercy seat and the ark. And what does the Lord do? Coming for you, dude. Can't leave me behind. Follows him out there. In the middle of David's flight, running from Jerusalem, shamefully walking away really from the ruin and devastation left behind him, it's really gone to pot. Absolom took over. He finds that atonement is still in reach, even when he didn't ask for it. That is merciful. David needs it. The Lord is a friend. He's with you. And he's merciful. If you belong to him, you cannot out-sin that. You are in it. David is messing up. Okay? This is a disaster. He still belongs to the Lord, and the Lord is pursuing him, as he always does. And that fact, when he turns around and he sees Ishalala, what's his name? With me. His name is with me. He's a friend, and he's with me. And David's like, I've got one person I can count on. And then Zadok comes with the ark behind him, and he's like, David, don't forget atonement and mercy. These things broke David finally. He finally broke. And we see in his text that he wept, and he's barefoot, and he covered his head. They are all signs of an outward sign of mourning and a broken heart. I think he's waking up. He's waking up. Look at the Lord's beauty here, David. Look up. Look out. Lift your head. Out of the muck, out of the mire. Look at the Lord, David. All along the way, out the east gate, into the Kidron Valley, climbing up the Mount of Olives, the Lord reminds David one after another that I am your friend, David, who will never leave you or forsake you. I am always with you, David, even to the ends of the age. I am your ever-present help in time of trouble. Yes, David, you are in a conundrum, okay? Just call it what it is. We are in a little bit of a pickle, but these things are the foretold wreckage of your decisions. I told you it was coming. You made these choices, but my blood atones you even today, tomorrow, forever. I am just and justifier, the Passover lamb. David forgot. Oh, and David, surely goodness and mercy shall follow you all the days of your life. Where did he get that? He wrote that in the twilight of his life. I wonder if this day he was remembering. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, you see. David finally sees himself in the light of the Lord. And that's the beauty of the Lord's persistence, you see. Even when we can't see the wreck of ourselves, even when we don't even acknowledge him in our day, even when we won't call out his name, though we are faithless, he is faithful still, right? And then David worshiped the Lord. Ah, he's back, right? David then worshiped the Lord in our text. Did you guys see that? Mark it. Like, get a magnifier out. I was like, say what? While David was coming to the summit of what? The Mount of Olives. Remember, he's going up to the Mount of Olives. It tells us that in verse 30. We already know he's going through the Kidron Valley. He is going up the Mount of Olives, where he worshiped God, you see. He finally worships God. Here's the thing. We know the worship song he wrote at this point. We don't always know. This one is tagged for us. David wanted us to know how he worshiped the Lord and what he said. Did you guys read it? Psalm 3. Check it out. A psalm of David when he fled from Absolom, his son. David stopped on the Mount of Olives and he's like, I got this. This is muscle memory. I remember the Lord. I remember that the Lord is my friend, that he is with me, that there's atonement. David's heart broke. It needed to. He needed to wake up. The 2x4, remember? Clock. He just got clocked with the Lord's goodness and mercy that was following him. Bam! Oh, I'm a worship leader. Yeah! Get your pen out. Your guitar. We've been waiting for years. Check it out. Chapter 3. Oh Lord, how many are my foes? Many are rising against me. Many are saying of my soul, there is no salvation for him in God. You hear that? People were whispering around David like, he is a lost cause. This man after God's own heart. There is no hope. People are whispering around me that there is no salvation for me, but because you hit me with a 2x4, you, O Lord, are a shield about me. Isn't this beautiful? My glory and the lifter of my head. That's what David needed. He had his eyes focused in the dark, in the muck, in the sin, in the trouble, in the heartbreak, in the betrayal. The Lord came and lifted his head, you see, and he answered me from his holy hill. I lay down in sleep. I woke up again, for the Lord sustained me. Sometimes that's all you can do. Go to sleep and wake up. That's literally the energy you got. That's where David was. He admits it. I went to sleep. I got up. That answers our question, I guess. He was so depressed, he probably wasn't getting out of bed. But the Lord sustained me, you see. I will not be afraid of many thousands of people who have set themselves against me all around. Arise, O Lord, save me, O my God. For you strike all my enemies on the cheek. You break the teeth of the wicked. Salvation belongs to the Lord. Your blessings be on your people, David said. But thou, O Lord, art a shield about me. It has to be in King James, or it's just not right. But thou, O Lord, art a shield about me, right? You are my glory, the lifter of my head. It's a beautiful psalm, especially in context. Don't you love context? We all know this verse at least. This is when he wrote it. But God is rich in mercy. You can have a lot that goes before the but God. David did. He had 20 years of just a crap story, you guys. I mean, you can't get much worse than what's going on to David right now. But God, rich in mercy. It's really pretty. I have a song that I could not get out of my head when I read this. Listen to the words from what David's going through. Maybe you're going through it. Maybe you feel like you guys are stuck and you can't see. It's just really pretty. And then I'll pray you guys out.
I was buried beneath my rebellion, lost without hope of redemption, blind to my need for a Savior. Oh, but God, crushed by the weight of my failure, living the lie I created, digging my grave without knowing. Oh, but God, rich in testimony. Oh, but God, oh, but God, rich in mercy, how you love me too much to let me stay lost. My salvation sent from heaven, nailing my sin to a cross. Oh, but God, and all the wreckage of my choices you have turned to life from ashes, lifted from death, risen with him. Now I stand in